There is a reason God has been entrusting you with weight before He entrusts you with visibility. There is a reason your elevation has been unfolding quietly, without applause, without announcement, without public validation. It is because heaven does not promote hunger for attention. It promotes integrity of heart. God trusts you not because you are loud about your faith, but because you are faithful when no one is watching. He has observed your restraint when you could have performed your discipline, when you could have displayed, and your obedience when recognition would have been easier than reverence. This is why a mantle of quiet elevation is resting upon your life. God does not entrust influence, wealth, or authority to those who crave applause. He entrusts it to those who understand weight. You have learned the difference between being seen and being sent, between being celebrated and being assigned. While others chase luxury as a symbol of arrival, you have been shaped to pursue legacy as a responsibility. Luxury seeks admiration. Legacy carries obligation. Status demands attention. Stewardship demands alignment. And heaven knows that you will not confuse temporary shine with eternal impact. You are being formed into someone who can hold abundance without arrogance and power without corruption. This is not accidental. It is intentional design. God is teaching your hands to handle wealth with humility, your voice to carry authority with compassion, and your presence to influence without contamination. You are learning how to walk into rooms without needing to dominate them, how to lead without needing to impress, how to prosper without needing to prove. This kind of formation cannot happen in noise. It requires silent separation and refinement. Many never receive this mantle because they are more committed to appearance than to alignment. But you have chosen the narrow path, the one where character precedes reward, where obedience outweighs exposure, and where reverence outlives recognition. Heaven sees this. Heaven honors this. And heaven responds by entrusting you with more, not to elevate your image, but to expand your assignment. This is the season where God is shaping you into a vessel that can be trusted with influence, that lasts, wealth that sustains, and authority that heals rather than harms. You are not being prepared for a moment of success, but for a lifetime of stewardship. And as this journey continues, remember this truth. What God is building in you matters far more than what He will soon release through you. The mantle you carry is not loud, but it is heavy, holy, and divinely appointed. What begins to emerge as God deepens this work within you is a noticeable shift in your inner world, a calmness that cannot be explained by circumstance alone. This calm is not passivity, and it is certainly not weakness. It is the visible sign of true spiritual maturity taking root. You are no longer easily triggered by words that once unsettled you, no longer intimidated by environments that once made you shrink, and no longer distracted by things that once pulled your focus away from purpose. Something within you has stabilized. Your reactions have softened, but your discernment has sharpened. This calmness was not given to you overnight. It is the fruit of battles you fought in silence and victories you won without witnesses. It was forged in moments when you chose restraint over reaction, prayer over panic, and wisdom over impulse. While others assumed nothing was happening because they could not see movement, heaven was watching you grow muscle in hidden places. Every time you stayed quiet, instead of defending yourself, every time you walked away, instead of engaging, every time you trusted God, instead of forcing outcomes, your spirit matured. What people call emotional distance is actually spiritual grounding. You are not numb. You are anchored. You are not disconnected. You are discerning. Your calm now carries authority because it was earned through endurance. This is why heaven honors this kind of strength. It is not the strength that shouts or demands space. It is the strength that holds peace under pressure and remains steady in transition. God elevates those who can govern themselves before governing influence. He entrusts more to those who have proven they can remain whole without applause. This calm you carry is evidence that you are becoming someone who can be trusted with greater weight. Heaven sees what was developed in private, and heaven responds by opening doors that only maturity can sustain. As this calm settles into your spirit, you begin to understand that the silence surrounding you is not an absence of movement, but a form of preparation. This season is not a delay. It is the process building what the promise requires. What feels like stretching is actually expansion. What feels like separation is refinement. And what feels like waiting is alignment. God is not withholding progress. He is constructing capacity. In this quiet, you are being sharpened in ways noise could never accomplish. Distractions are being stripped away so wisdom can take root. Relationships that could not carry the weight of your calling are gently and sometimes painfully removed. This is not loss, it is protection. Silence becomes the environment where your discernment matures, where your vision clears, and where your motives are purified. Without constant feedback from the world, you learn to recognize the voice of God with greater precision. Preparation always precedes manifestation in the economy of heaven. God never reveals what He has not first secured. He never elevates what has not been tested in hidden places. The waiting is doing something for you that speed never could. It is teaching you how to hold what is coming without being overtaken by it. In this stillness, your character is being fortified, your wisdom deepened, and your spirit anchored. When the promise finally appears, it will not overwhelm you, because the process already built the strength required to sustain it. As this preparation completes its quiet work within you, you begin to sense that you have crossed a spiritual threshold. Something irreversible has taken place. You can never return to who you were, not because you are trying to change, but because your inner landscape has already shifted. The old reactions no longer fit. The old fears no longer have authority. The old version of you cannot survive in the awareness you now carry. This inner shift is permanent. Your discernment has become sharper, not cynical, but clear. You can sense what is aligned and what is not, without needing excessive explanation. Your faith is no longer fragile or reactive. It is anchored. Storms may still come, but they no longer move you the same way because your roots are deeper than your circumstances. Your identity is no longer up for negotiation. You are no longer discovering who you are. You are standing in it. In this stage, God begins weaving what once felt wasted into power. Seasons you thought were delays, losses you could not explain, and moments of silence that felt empty are being stitched together with divine precision. Nothing was random. Nothing was discarded. Every unseen battle trained you. Every lonely stretch strengthened you. Every closed door redirected you. What looked like fragments are becoming a framework, and what felt like confusion is turning into clarity. You are not standing at the edge of change anymore. You are standing on new ground. And this ground carries authority. As you stand firmly on this new ground, understanding begins to replace the questions that once haunted you. What you once labeled as delay now reveals itself as divine protection in motion. God was never withholding from you. He was guarding what He placed inside you with precision and care. What felt like missed opportunities were not losses, they were interventions. What felt like endings were not punishments, they were preservations. Those relationships that could not follow you, those doors that closed without explanation, those moments when progress seemed just out of reach, all of it was intentional. Had certain opportunities opened too early, they would have demanded a version of you that was not yet fortified. Had certain connections remained, they would have drained what was still being formed. An early blessing would not have elevated you, it would have exposed you. An exposure without maturity destroys what it touches. In this light, every delay becomes strategy. Every closed door becomes protection. God was not slowing your progress. He was strengthening your capacity. He was building wisdom before wealth, discernment before influence, and stability before expansion. Heaven understands timing better than desire, and protection often looks like postponement until the soul can safely carry the weight of what is coming. Now, as you look back, clarity replaces confusion. You see that what you were spared from was just as important as what you are being prepared for. And this realization does not create frustration, it creates gratitude. Because you are still standing, still growing, and now fully ready to receive what could only come after the guarding season had done its work. And as this guarding season completes its work, something unmistakable happens within you. Clarity begins to replace desperation. You are no longer moving from fear, and you are no longer driven by the need to be seen affirmed or understood. The urgency that once pressured your decisions loosens its grip. What once felt like survival now feels like discernment. You are not rushing because you finally trust where you are being led. Approval no longer has authority over you. You do not seek permission from people who were never assigned to your calling. The craving to explain yourself fades, replaced by a quiet confidence that does not need witnesses. This is not indifference. It is alignment. You have learned that validation from the wrong sources can cost you peace, and peace has become too valuable to sacrifice. In this new posture, patience becomes holy. Waiting is no longer filled with anxiety or self-doubt. It becomes an act of faith. You are learning how to wait without worrying and how to move without forcing. You no longer push doors that resist you. You recognize that what is truly aligned will open with ease, and what requires manipulation is not meant to last. This is a sign of maturity. You are no longer driven by desperation, but guided by wisdom. Your steps are steadier now. Your decisions are quieter yet more powerful. And in this clarity, you discover a deeper truth. When fear loses its voice, destiny gains momentum. As clarity settles into your spirit, it naturally gives birth to a new posture, strategic humility. This is where you learn the discipline of acting poor, when you are becoming rich, not as denial, but as wisdom. Wealth, in its most powerful form, grows best underground. Like roots strengthening in unseen soil, what God is building in you is being established beyond the reach of envy, interference, and premature exposure. Quiet growth becomes a spiritual strategy. You are no longer interested in announcing progress or displaying what is still forming. You understand now that visibility attracts opinions, but wisdom attracts protection. This restraint is not fear, it is reverence. You are honoring the assignment by refusing to expose it to environments that cannot steward its weight. Not every space is equipped to handle what God is entrusting to you, and not every eye carries the purity required to witness it. In this season, you choose wisdom over visibility. You resist the temptation to be loud about blessings that are still being shaped. You allow God to complete His work without interruption. Silence becomes a shield. Humility becomes a gate, and discernment becomes your guide. What others mistake for smallness is actually preparation for longevity. This is how you ensure that when the abundance surfaces, it will not collapse under scrutiny or be drained by misuse. You are learning that true wealth does not rush to be seen, it waits to be sustained. From strategic humility, your journey moves naturally into emotional mastery and self-governance, because what God entrusts outwardly must first be governed inwardly. Mastery is not passivity. It is not withdrawal, born of fear, nor silence born of insecurity. It is the disciplined strength of someone who knows when to speak, when to pause, and when to let presence do the work words never could. You no longer feel compelled to explain yourself to the misaligned. Not everyone is assigned to understand your evolution, and not every misunderstanding requires correction. There was a time when being misread stirred anxiety in you, when silence felt like surrender. But now, silence has become authority. You understand that clarity does not come from over-explaining. It comes from consistency, integrity, and time. Those who are meant to recognize you will do so without persuasion. This restraint is evidence of self-governance. You are mastering your reactions, your emotional triggers, and your internal narratives. You choose response over reaction, wisdom over impulse. This is not suppression, it is command. You are no longer ruled by the need to be validated, defended, or applauded. And here is the truth. Few understand. Wealth flows to those who master themselves. Influence increases where emotional discipline exists. Abundance is attracted to people who can carry peace under pressure, clarity under provocation, and humility under elevation. You are becoming someone who can sit at higher tables without bringing old reactions, someone whose inner world is stable enough to sustain outer expansion. This is power refined, quiet controlled, and unshakable. As emotional mastery settles within you, it naturally gives birth to a new priority: privacy over performance. This is not withdrawal from purpose, but alignment with heaven's rhythm. Heaven has always built deeply before revealing publicly. Roots are formed in darkness long before fruit appears in the light, and you are learning to honor this sacred order. You no longer feel the urge to announce your goals or broadcast what God is developing in your life, not because nothing is happening, but because too much is happening to be exposed prematurely. Your spirit has developed an instinct to protect what heaven is shaping. You understand now that some blessings are fragile in their early stages, not because they lack power, but because they are still being fortified. Exposure too soon can invite misunderstanding, envy, or interference that disrupts divine timing. This restraint is wisdom, not fear. You are choosing stewardship over spectacle. You are resisting the temptation to turn progress into performance, growth into proof. Silence becomes your covering. Privacy becomes your protection. What God is building in you does not need an audience to be validated. It needs space to mature. And this is how sustained abundance is formed. Momentary success seeks applause. Lasting abundance seeks alignment. Heaven is not preparing you for a brief moment of visibility, but for a lifetime of impact. What arrives quietly will remain firmly. What is built in secret will stand in public without collapsing under pressure. You are learning that the strongest breakthroughs are not announced. They are revealed when they are ready to be sustained. As privacy replaces performance. Another profound shift becomes undeniable within you. Your identity is detaching from opinion. This is not indifference toward people, but liberation from perception. Your confidence is no longer rooted in who notices you, applauds you, or understands you. It is rooted in alignment, and alignment produces a peace that applause can never give. You are discovering the freedom of no longer being defined by how others see you. Misunderstanding no longer threatens your sense of worth. Silence no longer feels like rejection. Being unseen no longer feels like being unimportant. Why? Because your identity has moved from the external world into the inner sanctuary where God affirms you. The old self, the one that needed validation, explanation, and reassurance, is quietly fading. In its place, the anointed self is rising steady, anchored, and unshakable. This anointed self does not compete for attention. It does not rush to correct narratives or defend its position. It knows who it is and whose it is. And because of that certainty, influence begins to emerge quietly but undeniably. People feel your presence before you speak. Doors open without you pushing. Respect forms without you demanding it. This is authority without noise. What is forming in you now cannot be imitated. It is the result of alignment sustained over time. Heaven is teaching you that true confidence does not announce itself, it radiates. And as this influence grows, it will not draw attention to you, but to the work God has done within you. And as your identity settles into this quiet alignment, another realization begins to unfold with gentle clarity. Nothing in your life was wasted. This is the moment where the weaving of purpose becomes visible, not loudly, not suddenly, but with a depth that reaches backward and gathers every fragment of your journey into meaning. Every experience you once questioned is now being threaded into a divine pattern. The delays, the detours, the disappointments, even the seasons that felt empty or unfair, none of them were random. They were intentional layers, shaping capacity, wisdom, and discernment. What looked like loss was training. What felt like isolation was refinement. What seemed like stagnation was positioning. God was not merely guiding you forward, He was weaving you inward. Understanding does not arrive through noise in this season, it comes through revelation. In still moments, clarity rises without effort. You suddenly see why certain doors closed, why certain prayers were delayed, why certain relationships could not follow you. The answers do not shout, they settle. And when they do, they bring peace rather than regret. You realize that heaven was protecting an inheritance too sacred to be rushed. This inheritance is reserved for those who endured darkness without losing light. You carried faith when hope was thin. You chose integrity when shortcuts were tempting. You stayed soft in a world that tried to harden you. That endurance matters. Heaven records it. And now, what you survived is becoming what empowers you. Purpose is no longer a distant idea. It is forming structure. The past is no longer a burden. It is becoming a blueprint. And as the weaving continues, you are stepping into a destiny that only someone who endured with purity could ever carry. And as this woven purpose begins to settle into your spirit, you are led naturally into a deeper way of living, one marked by discipline, simplicity, and silence. This is not regression. This is refinement. Sacred restraint now becomes your protection, because divine wealth, whether spiritual, relational, or material, requires guardianship before it requires expression. Silence in this season is no longer emptiness, it is power. You are learning that not every victory needs narration, and not every insight needs an audience. Silence preserves clarity. It keeps your spirit tuned to heaven instead of the noise of comparison and opinion. When you speak less, you hear more. When you explain less, God defends more. This restraint is not fear. It is wisdom, earned through maturity. Alongside silence, simplicity begins to feel natural, even necessary. Your choices narrow, your focus sharpens, and your desires become cleaner. You are no longer pulled by excess performance or the need to impress. Simplicity becomes a shield. It protects your peace, your energy, and your assignment from environments that would misuse or misunderstand them. What once felt like less now feels like freedom. And beneath all of this, something profound is happening in the hidden places. Like seed planted in unseen soil, your life is producing roots before fruit. Hidden soil always produces lasting harvest. What grows quietly grows strong. What matures unseen endures storms. Heaven trusts growth that happens without witnesses. This disciplined, simple, silent posture is not delaying abundance. It is ensuring it lasts. You are becoming someone who can carry increase without losing alignment, influence without corruption, and wealth without compromise. This is how divine wealth is protected before it is ever revealed. As the discipline of silence and simplicity roots deeply within you, you now step into a phase of rising without announcement, a level of growth so profound that it happens largely unseen by the world. This is a season where impact takes precedence over visibility and substance triumphs over spectacle. The world may wonder how you are advancing, how favor is aligning, or how influence is multiplying. Yet all the while, your ascent remains quiet, deliberate, and anchored in God's timing. Invisible growth is confusing to those who measure success by applause or public recognition. They cannot comprehend that real elevation often occurs beneath the surface, where hearts are strengthened, minds are sharpened, and spirits are fortified. What you are building now is not for temporary display. It is eternal preparation for assignments that require both wisdom and discretion. The quiet moments, the private victories, and the hidden disciplines are all accumulating into a foundation too solid to be shaken by external pressures. With this invisible rise comes quiet authority. You carry yourself with a steadiness that unsettles the insecure and a confidence that needs no validation. Stability replaces spectacle. Substance replaces performance. Your influence begins to radiate naturally, not because it is broadcast, but because it is rooted in mastery alignment and divine strategy. This is the hallmark of a true chosen one, rising in power, preparing in secrecy, and moving with authority that cannot be questioned. As your invisible growth continues, you now enter a realm defined by quiet strength and inner authority. A power that does not need to shout to be recognized. This is a strength forged in the hidden chambers of your spirit, honed through seasons of discipline, patience, and unwavering faith. Emotional regulation becomes your foundation. No longer do external circumstances dictate your responses or rattle your peace. You have learned to carry calmness as armor, to respond from wisdom rather than impulse, and to navigate life with a steady spirit that cannot be destabilized by chaos. Discernment rises as your shield guiding your steps with precision. You can now identify what aligns with your calling and what threatens your growth. Praise without purity, relationships without depth, and opportunities without alignment no longer capture your attention. You no longer expend energy explaining yourself to those who are misaligned with your purpose. Instead, you allow God's timing and guidance to confirm your path. With this quiet strength comes presence, an authority felt before a word is spoken. You walk into rooms not to perform, but to impact, not to impress, but to influence. Every action, every gesture, and every word carries weight because it stems from alignment, maturity, and divine preparation. This is the hallmark of a chosen one, a leader whose power is invisible yet undeniable, whose authority radiates from within, and whose presence commands respect without demand. As you progress in your journey, you enter a season of transition and holy tension, a hallway between what you have outgrown and the new dimensions you are about to enter. This is a space where you may feel too expansive for your current environment, where the weight of your potential presses against the limitations around you. Yet this tension is not a sign of failure. It is a sacred signal that your spirit is being stretched, refined, and readied for the expansion that awaits. The passage may feel narrow, even uncomfortable, but it is precisely this confinement that prepares you for the fullness ahead. In this tight space, every distraction that once pulled at you loses its power. Your responses are being calibrated, your patience sharpened, and your focus deepened. Strategic silence becomes your tool, not a retreat, but a deliberate positioning. You are learning to move without forcing to wait, without anxiety, and to guard the sanctity of your growth. This hallway, though temporary, is formative. It teaches you to steward your energy, protect your progress, and embrace the unseen work happening within. Every step taken in restraint, every moment held in quiet, prepares you to step fully into the next season with clarity, authority, and unwavering alignment. The discomfort of transition is not accidental. It is divine preparation for the elevation that is coming. As you move through this sacred season, you begin to understand that every silent effort, every private act of discipline, and every tear shed unnoticed has been carefully recorded by heaven. This is the reward for the seeds you planted in secrecy, the moments when you chose restraint over impulse prayer, over panic, and obedience over recognition. Nothing you endured in the shadows has been overlooked. Every private sacrifice is preparing the soil for a harvest that will one day manifest publicly, a harvest that honors the faithfulness of your unseen labor. The shift you feel within is the confirmation that the pain, the delays, and the waiting all had divine purpose. What once seemed frustrating or purposeless is now being woven into a tapestry of destiny. Heaven has been shaping your internal strength, emotional resilience, and spiritual maturity, so that when the breakthrough arrives, you will not only receive it, you will steward it with wisdom and grace. This is a pivotal moment, chosen one where the quiet obedience of yesterday becomes the undeniable blessing of today. The shift you sense is tangible. It is the subtle yet unstoppable movement of heaven, aligning every effort, every sacrifice, and every silent moment with the destiny you were always meant to fulfill. Your harvest is on the horizon, and nothing was wasted. As you step into this Kairos moment, chosen one, you must recognize that the foundation of everything you are about to receive is already anchored deep within your spirit. Your identity has been tested, refined, and fortified through seasons of silence, trials, and unseen victories. It is anchored so securely that no circumstance, opinion, or fleeting success can shake it. This anchoring is the divine prerequisite for the elevation that is now unfolding. You are no longer reacting to the world around you. Rather, the world is beginning to move in response to the alignment and obedience that have been cultivated within you. Heaven has been orchestrating every delay, every closed door, and every moment of quiet growth to prepare you for blessings that are not just temporal, but eternal in their significance. These blessings are aligned with your purpose and your divine timing. What has been building quietly behind the scenes, the spiritual maturity, the emotional discernment, the wisdom cultivated in solitude, now positions you to receive your inheritance fully prepared, fully equipped, and fully responsible. The transfer of favor, influence, and abundance has already begun. You may not yet see the full manifestation, but it is moving from the unseen into the seen, from promise into tangible reality. Walk forward with humility, protecting the sanctity of your peace, and with reverence for the process that brought you here. Let every step reflect the obedience and alignment that have carried you through every silent season. Speak less, move with intention, and allow your life to testify of the unseen work of God in your character, your identity, and your calling. Chosen one, your next level has already begun. The breakthrough you have been waiting for is unfolding. Your quiet obedience is becoming supernatural elevation. Stand firmly, trust fully, and embrace the authority, influence, and abundance that heaven has long been preparing for you. The seeds sown in silence are now sprouting visibly, and the fullness of your divine destiny is approaching with unstoppable momentum.